Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. This is Cincy Brewcast. It's the voice of Cincy Craft. This is crazy. You guys were talking about how you haven't had a podcast here recording before, and it just so happens that somehow today there's two different people recording at the same time. There's some kind of Hot Ones challenge happening like right across the tap room. So if you hear people crying in the background, that's what's happening. They ate something that was very hot.
Maybe I'm having a bad Monday.
Jump right in. Introduce yourself. We've never been here as a show yet. Lebanon Brewing Company. You guys have been open for about a year.
Coming up on a year,
and we've been trying to figure out a way to get the timing right to make this show happen since then. Introduce yourself. Tell people what you do here.
So my name is Jake Borsvold. I'm the head brewer / only brewer and co-owner here at LBC. Like you said, we opened September 23rd of last year, so we're almost there.
This week.
Yeah.
This week when we're recording it, it was last week when you're listening to this. This will post next Monday. So,
okay.
You have to, in your head, you have to think of the time shift.
Oh no,
a week isn't too bad.
Right.
There are some podcasts that'll like record way ahead of time, and then you listen to it and they'll say things and you're like, that doesn't really make sense. Christmas already happened, things like that. So we don't have it that bad, but. We're gonna jump through the beers, but first I want to get kind of a picture of, kind of explain what this place is to people. I think obviously it's a brewery; they understand that, but kind of the vibe of it and what they can expect when they walk in.
Yeah, we are proudly a small town independent brewery. Lebanon really was wanting one of these for years and years, and people tried a few different times and it just didn't pan out. And this building kind of fell into our lap. The city was building a new fire station, and they really wanted something that would kind of contribute to the community instead of, I think the second choice was knocking it down and putting a parking lot here.
Yeah.
So,
which would contribute to, but that's not the same way.
I know which one I'd pick. So, it kind of fell into our laps. We were able to buy the building, and it's really kind of become a hub for our little town already.
Right.
We host lots of, booster fundraisers here, stuff like that. And it's been great. The community's really embraced us, and I think they're just happy they don't have to. Granted, there's some awesome breweries in Mason
it's
and
still a little
around.
Bit of a drive, though,
but it's a bit
there.
of a hike. For the weeknight people that want to go out and have a cool local trivia night and support a local business, there was nothing here.
Right.
So it worked out great. Everyone's been awesome.
The lunch crowd.
Lunch crowd.
That's one of the things that I think is so underappreciated, especially when you look at a town like this where there isn't a ton of places downtown to go grab a lunch.
There's not.
And the fact that it's a brewery, it feels comfortable, even if you come in and you don't have a beer because you have to go back to work.
Right.
That's
we
fine.
do get lots of that too.
But it's still just being here. It feels better than going
right.
out and you're sitting and you're waiting on somebody to come to
right.
your table. And this is a perfect spot to go just grab lunch.
Yeah.
Let's drink a beer because it is a craft beer podcast. It was called From the Beer Fridge because we used to have a studio with a beer fridge.
Okay.
It's just always that now. From the beer taps.
Right
I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to guess this number one on my flight paddle is a Mexican lager.
How'd you pick? How'd you figure that out?
So tell me about the beer a little bit.
So that's our Amigo Mexican lager. It's very straightforward. We didn't do any lime in the recipe itself. I think a lot of times that can take away from something as subtle and light as a Mexican lager.
Right.
So we do that. We serve it with the lime because I think sometimes people add the peels in the recipe, and I think it's kind of pithy and bitter, and so it's very straightforward. It's about 30%.
It also lets you kind of control if you want lime,
totally.
how much lime you can just kind of rub it around there and get a little bit of that. You can take and squirt the whole thing in there, chuck it in your beer and get a little more. And it gives everybody kind of the way to kind of play with their own desire a little bit.
Yeah, I like the wisp of lime. Some people like to drown it. So you're right. It gives people the option.
What makes a Mexican lager versus other lager styles?
Typically, it's just a little less bitter, just really drinkable, and usually it has some kind of corn product in there. Which this one does. It's just a flake corn that we use, and just kind of a sessionable summer beer.
It's that flavor, and as Cincinnatians, I know you guys are up here in Lebanon, but this is still part of Cincinnati, lest anybody think differently. We're very familiar with a certain cream ale that is kind of part of Cincinnati's heritage. And, this gives me some of those things that remind me of that beer, that kind of that corny sweetness. Doesn't taste like corn. It's a corny sweetness.
It's there,
which, once you know that's corn, you get it. But super crisp, super easy to drink, perfect for summertime.
Exactly.
It's one of those lagers, though, too. Like, yes, Mexican lager is definitely a summer beer.
Totally.
But as we start heading into fall, like that kind of almost earthy kind of body that corn gives it, makes me kind of appreciate it in the fall, too.
Definitely.
It's a great
beer.
beer.
And that was one we're like, okay, we're going to do a nice seasonal lager for June, July.
Right.
And it flew. And people were... They were going to riot.
Right.
Like, where is this at? It's August. We still need this. So we did another brew that we weren't expecting, or we weren't planning originally, but it's become a crowd favorite for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
What have been some? Well, I mean, we're probably getting ahead of ourselves. But what have been some of the things that people have latched onto? Is there things that kind of surprised you that you thought, oh, this is again, this is not any kind of offensive statement towards Lebanon, but you don't know what the beer drinkers are going to be like, since you guys are the first brewery open up in town here.
Right.
It could go either way. You could get a lot of people that just Bud Light drinker.
Right.
This is all I like. Or it could be I'm a wine drinker. That's all I like.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know what people are going to latch onto.
I mean, that's kind of been a fun experience here, because we've had a ton of people where this is the first brewery they've ever been into, which is hard to come by in Cincinnati or in a more metro area. So we have tons of people we get lots of dads in here like, well, I drink Bud Light. What do you got? And so when we first opened, the Pils was sailing out of here.
Right.
So a lot of people were like, I think we got their foot in the door. They started to trust us a little bit. Now they'll branch out and try some of the other stuff. So I've been very pleasantly surprised how well the German traditional lager stuff has been doing. Because a lot of times, a lot of places are able to have a lager on, but we've really been trying to put our weight behind them, because they've been sailing, man. So
you guys have done. You did a Bach. You have the Oktoberfest is back now. You did a Schwarzbier for a while, right?
Yep. That'll be coming back.
Wasn't there? Not that it's a lager, but didn't you have a Dunkelweizen too?
We did a Dunkelweiss. We did a smoked Helles that I think we had to sell some people on, but then because it was definitely unfamiliar territory for a lot of people that come here, and that one did great.
Was there anything that people really kind of latched themselves to that surprised you?
The Schwartz beer for sure. That was one that I think some people were maybe a little intimidated by the color, or I think they just attributed that to it's Guinness, or
I wonder if some of kind of the other stuff that's happening in Cincinnati has kind of bled over, and people are kind of more kind of understanding of some of those styles now than they would have been if this had opened, we'll say 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
Even. People are like, oh yeah, I have had one of those before. It's that's like so and so's dark lager that they make, and people are kind of ready for it now versus what it might have been before.
Right.
This might have been a very different endeavor if it had been 10 years ago.
Yeah. Other breweries have done a lot of the legwork for us on some of that, but like the Schwartz, like I said, it was a slow starter, and then it was.
Once people start talking about it, people realize what it is, and
it's still approachable. Just I think whether they were off put or didn't think they'd like it, they thought it was going to be like coffee, or I don't know, but that's one that we continually are just asked about, since it's been gone. So that's what we was like. All right, well, you got to drink the Mexican lager, so we have room for Schwarzbier.
Right. So is Schwarzbier like a? Do you have a seasonal rotation for different types of lagers, or have you kind of started to settle into that, or started to kind of explore it?
It's definitely shaken out that way, because to start, we didn't. Like I said, I didn't know how those would do. I didn't know, because there's I've worked at plenty of other breweries in the past where they were just IPA factories, which is cool, but that hasn't been the case here. We usually keep 2, 3, 4 on, just depending on where they fall. But I was going in, I didn't really want to pigeonhole ourselves in any we only have one IPA on at a time, or we just do the Pils, or so we kind of threw a lot of stuff at them to start and just see what was resonating. And the lager stuff definitely was.
That's
And
cool.
I don't know if it's the dad crowd or what.
I don't know.
They're loving it, man.
I think it's something deeper than that because we're seeing it in the industry too.
Oh,
that people are
absolutely.
kind of latching onto lagers, and it makes me feel good about beer because the classic stuff still kind of it's the stuff that got us started into beer. It was the things before there were a lot of craft breweries around. You'd find the imports and things like that.
Right.
So seeing people kind of drift to those classic styles, people. I think they might get it. I think people understand.
Right. No. And I think beer's starting to have some utility again. I think for the longest time it was just like the entertainment value of trying weird beers and
some kind of weird
the novelty
candy
of
or
it.
some kind of
right. Which is. I think there's still a place for that stuff, but I still think that now, like, okay, I just need my liquid bread now.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's got some utility to it, and it's not just entertainment value and like something you drink while you're watching the game.
So tell me how you ended up here. Tell me your story. How did you get into, number one, how did you get into craft beer? Let's start there. Your road to craft.
A road to craft.
Yeah.
So I was beer nerd early age. I was going to school for microbiology, and I was like, maybe looking at, do I want to be like a science teacher? What do I do with this? And then I realized, kids kind of suck. And,
They do.
I was like, I don't know. I don't think that's it. And I started looking more into like the microbiology applications to beer, like with yeast and all that fun stuff.
But you were a craft beer drinker before that connection kind of happened.
Yeah.
When did that connection kind of click that it's like, oh my God, this is
this could be a job. This is a job.
No, but I mean like the microbiology side of what this is. A lot of people don't understand how much of that goes into making beer or goes into making good beer.
Yeah.
I mean, was it just kind of always there in the back of your head that
a little bit? I think it didn't register with me as like this is a job I could do. I think I got, like I said, I was doing a lot of like home brewing, propagating yeast from other Belgian breweries and kind of nerding out on that stuff. And I was like, oh wow, there's like breweries have full labs and stuff like that. Like this is this could be a cool career. So when I was still in school, I started working in the packaging line at Great Lakes in Cleveland. So that was my foot in the door. Initially, I was really drawn to more the lab analytical side of it.
Right.
Then I was like, oh no, the brewing is a lot more fun. Like you still get to nerd out on some of the biology stuff, but it's not repetitive. It's not the same thing every day. So I started on the graveyard bottling line shift there while I was finishing school. Then went into the cellar there, started dabbling in the brew house because places like Great Lakes that have been around for a long time. It's a double-sided sword because it's a great place to work, but it's also people don't leave.
Right.
So it's like unless you want to work graveyard until someone retires, like
there's a lot of sweeping floors and
exactly
things like that.
It's a lot of go for grunt work. So, which was was awesome. I got to learn from some really really cool people that had been in the industry longer than I'd been alive. Which, I started working there when I was 22, so that was a really cool opportunity. And like I said, like I got to branch out, or otherwise I'm never going to get to move up the ladder here. Right. So from Cleveland, I went to Chicago to open the Lagunitas second satellite facility. They were branching out from their big one in Petaluma, California.
This was pre-Heineken, right?
This was, well before Heineken. This was back when they were still starry-eyed. And, it was an awesome company to work for also. So we were there during, like, the build out, the startup of a huge facility there, which was super cool. Like I said, the IPA factories I have worked at, they can kind of, those lose some of the romance when you are making stuff like swimming pool size volumes of beer.
Also when you're making the same beer over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Which I think that can be a slippery slope too. Like production brewing is a great way to get into the industry and things like that, but then it really like makes beer so much more of a commodity for you. Like this is just like I could be making tires here. It's like like you're at a computer screen. You're like controlling these things, and it's cool. You really learn like some unique perspectives on production and things like that. But
you start to lose some of that magic of what makes brewing fun too. I mean, it's not that that's not fun in its own right, but like there's something about the hands-on making beer, and then that experience of seeing that beer then make its way over here and come out of the taps, and there's like in a place like this, you're over there, you're working, and you can just turn around and see people sitting at the bar enjoying the thing that you're doing, and
Right.
kind of keeps that connection to it. Whereas
Absolutely.
some of those production
Yeah,
spaces,
you
it's easy
definitely
to lose
lose the romance in some of those big production operations.
Right.
But it's a cool opportunity. I learned a ton there, and then from there I went to work for BrewDog.
Man, you hit some places that
I did. Yeah, it helps to be young, single, no kids. Like I can go make beer anywhere. It's pretty easy. So, went to work for BrewDog. This was before the Columbus operation was open. It was planned, but hadn't taken off yet. So, went over to the UK, got to learn the ropes, train with some really cool people, and then come back over and open the Columbus facility.
Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. It's a cool learning experience because opening a satellite brewery, you have some unique challenges. Like,
I mean, I'll say cool experience. I'll say it on the air. Screw them as a company.
No, 100%, 100%.
I have to mention that.
No, absolutely. It was unfortunate. Well, you know what? I think they get so caught up in like trying to, they're in like the eyeball game.
Yeah.
So they don't care if they're being douchebags or
Right.
if they're, So, and that was one, like, I was like, I got to get out of here. This place is embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like telling people I work here anymore.
Right.
Like, after a few years in, like, all right, this isn't worth it, But,
it's a shame, too, because that brewery is so big and because what they did coming into Ohio
Totally.
was really exciting. But
It's cool.
Man.
And it's a shame, too, because there's so many, like, brilliant, dedicated, like, really talented
Sure.
people that work for the company, and they're just completely overshadowed by someone that wants attention.
Yeah.
So it's a huge bummer there because, especially like Northern Scotland, like pickings are pretty slim on brewing jobs. So
Yeah.
a lot of them, it's like it's this or I switch industries.
Right.
So, unfortunately, in the U.S. we don't have that problem.
Right.
It's a good brewery every 20 feet, so it helps.
Not in Lebanon.
Well, no, not in Lebanon. No, there's still some missed opportunities there, but Lebanon's been great. Yep.
Okay, so you're working at BrewDog. Then what?
Then what? So I was in Columbus. I had the opportunity to open a brewery in Columbus. We were working on that. Had a cool site. We had all our ducks in a row. Then COVID happened.
Right.
So that didn't really. We fortunately, really, very fortunately, it hit us before we were opened. Or because we would
far enough along in the process that you
right,
can't stop the train.
We could hit the brakes on it and be like, this isn't the time. Like, we were able to sell off the equipment we bought, and we really dodged a bullet there. So that was back. You were talking about keeping our week straight. I can't keep our year straight.
Right.
But so that happened, and then during COVID, I was like, well, I kind of out of the industry a little bit. I grew up in Montana from there originally. During COVID, like I'm just going to go back to Montana and figure out, what the next step is. Like, is this industry, gonna keep me happy, or is this what I want to continue pursuing? Mm-hmm. And then I was actually in the process of starting a brewery there, and my folks happened to be living in Waynesville, which is the next town over.
Sure.
And I was here visiting and met my now partner. He was trying to do a little startup on the edge of town. He had a little warehouse there, and we met through mutual friends.
I forgot about that. I forgot that there was another space.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So we kind of each had a piece of the puzzle. We were both working on our own small startups, and like we could really, I think we really gelled well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, this seems like this could be cool. And then after all that, then this building came available and the city approached us. And we're like, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
So we could definitely do something better together than separately. So he ended up selling his old building to the city. The city sold us this building, and that was that. Yeah.
Well, and I like it. Obviously, you mentioned it's an old firehouse. I like that you didn't lean too heavy into the firehouse theme. Mm-hmm. You stuck with Lebanon Brewing Company. It's this is part of the neighborhood, part of the community, part of Lebanon.
Right.
I like that. It lets it not be gimmicky, which it's easy to go gimmicky when you have a cool building that has its own story. And there's a lot that I really do like about what this is.
Totally.
And then you throw on top that the beer is good.
Yeah.
The beer is imaginative, and it is still sticks to some of the kind of the core, the classic styles.
Totally.
It's all those things that a beer drinker that I want. It's like if it's one of those weekends, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna drive, we're gonna go to a brewery,
Right.
someplace that we don't get to that often. It's one of those places that keeps popping up at the top of the list. It's like, oh well, yeah, the beer is really good,
Yeah.
and it's stuff that gets me
Right,
pumped
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Not so, like there's a lot of little breweries that, as you kind of branch out a little further, that are really great, but there's no.
Is it worth the trip?
Yeah, they're great for their community, but they're not great to get me to go there.
Totally.
And this place does that for me, so I really
awesome. I
appreciate
appreciate
what it's turned into. Let's drink another beer, actually.
So this is actually our Oktoberfest.
All
This
right.
is our Lebenhosen Oktoberfest.
This was so the first time. I think it was the first time I came out was. Yeah, it had to have been because it was probably right around that time last year.
Yeah.
You guys had just tapped your Oktoberfest, and I'm like, that's perfect. It's perfect time for me to get out there and check it out for the first time. Walked in, and everybody had drank it all already.
It was wild, man.
I think there was like 1 or 2 kegs that you guys
Yeah.
quickly snatched up and stashed away in the back corner so you'd have them left over for
Right.
the actual Oktoberfest celebration.
Yeah. Lebanon does their little town Oktoberfest like the second week of October.
Which is too late, by the way, Lebanon.
Of course,
if you,
yeah. Bless their hearts. So I kegged it the day we opened on the 23rd of September. And I was like, oh, this will be great. This will last us until Lebanon's little Oktoberfest. And, but then we tapped and we're like, oh, shoot. It flew. So we were like, we need to hold back a couple kegs so at least we have something to serve when Lebanon does their little Oktoberfest. So
talk about the difference between Märzen's and Fest beers for you, or something like this, which I think kind of falls into both categories a little bit.
Yeah, so I think you ask an American brewer what an Oktoberfest is, I would think they'll tell you this. It's kind of the Märzen type. Malty, got a lot of character there. And then Fest beer, I pictured like the Munich Helles.
Sure.
Just got nice and crisp and bright and drinkable, and that's the question we get a ton. So for our Oktoberfest this year, we're going to release both. Like I'd like to
great.
see people, at least our interpretation of both. Because I'm sure you ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers. But for us, this is our Oktoberfest, and then we're going to have our Fest beer served beside it.
So Fest beer will lean more towards kind of a Helles
Yeah,
lager.
kind of our Munich Helles, kind of what you would expect to find if you went to Oktoberfest in Munich.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is great. It's a great Oktoberfest. I don't understand why traditional German styles like this aren't something that more breweries. I mean, I guess it's just the probably the talent that
I
it
think
takes
it
to brew
depends on your geography, man. Because some people, this would turn into a turd. Like it just wouldn't sell because they'd have 3 hazy IPAs flying out faster.
Right.
Or
But
I don't know.
But this is one of those beers that, like, it fits into, in my mind, just about every craft beer drinker or every beer drinker can pick this up and try it. And it's
Totally.
not offensive.
Yeah.
But it's got enough character to it that if you are a bit of a geek, you can kind of dive in and kind of spend some time with it. I recognize that maybe if you call it a Märzen and it says Märzen up there, that probably scares some people away.
I think so.
But I think it's okay not to do that.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's why I was like, I think just calling it an Oktoberfest, I think people come to expect something a little more like this, at least here.
Yeah.
I think you'll have some like, well, that's not what you'll get there, and which is fine. It's different, but I think
that's great though. Like
Right.
I love that discussion when I'm
Totally.
sitting at a bar and somebody comes in, oh, this isn't really a traditional Oktoberfest, and then the conversation starts, and
Right.
there's some people that are rolling their eyes, then there's some people like, what do you mean? And then that starts that, and then there's this discussion that happens at
Right.
the bar, and people are like, oh, well, actually, there's when you go to Oktoberfest, most of it's Fest beer,
Right,
Actually,
right.
all of it's Fest beer. I think at this point, I don't know if there's any
I think
actual
so,
Märzens
yeah.
being served, but that's part of what makes beer drinking fun.
Totally.
Is those conversations,
the
that happen at the
interpretations
bar.
of it, yeah. And because I love these beers, like this is my favorite time of year to visit other breweries because I love Oktoberfest.
Well, it's still like it still blows my mind. Not as much with Oktoberfest, but like when we get into Bach season and you can walk and like there's a Bach beer.
Right.
I won't say every brewery in Cincinnati, but
Right.
a good chunk of them are making Bach
Totally.
beer.
We're one of them.
That's crazy.
Right. And I think, and it's funny, you had been in here and we talked about it a little bit. You're like, and part of me is like, I was like, okay, well, we run out of Oktoberfest in 2 weeks. Do I need to like double up on the Bach? So there's still a little bit of that head scratching from our first year open. And
Right.
I think Cincinnati definitely has some Bach fatigue. Like by the time we it sold well. It's, we still had the people that were upset that it was gone, but I was happy to see it go because it was one that's like,
Well, it's also like there's no reason you guys are in Lebanon. You're not that close to
No.
the city that you can't like just say, all right, that same weekend maybe we throw our own kind of Bach celebration,
right,
and,
right.
and kind of get
we're-
people to understand the style a little bit. And
Yeah. I think we're just far enough removed that we don't, and I think we're learning this, we're just far enough out that we don't necessarily need to play along with everything.
Sure.
Which is great. There's some stuff we want to play along with because I like Bach.
right,
But I think we get to kind of decide which ones we want to play along with
Yeah.
and which ones we don't.
well, and that's
which is cool.
you where Lebanon is, like you can kind of pull some of the Cincinnati kind of culture.
Right.
You can pull from Dayton. You can pull
Totally.
from Columbus. You can go
Right.
from kind of all of those places and bring that into what this is and let it be its own thing. And that's fun.
Which was what we're doing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't do so great. I was like, oh great, I don't have to make this shit anymore.
Like what?
Some of the like more desserty milk stout stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That they did okay, but it's one. It's like we'll still probably do one every year, but it's not like going to be a main driver of our volume, which is cool.
It kind of makes me feel good that it didn't.
Too. Oh, there's and my partner was because like I said early on, we're like I'm not gonna decide what we're going to be now. I'm just going to let our market decide what this place is going to be, and I've been very pleasantly surprised because
Right.
there's been some stuff that I'm like, oh man, I hope they don't like this. Like I want them to buy it, but I don't want them to like it that much.
Right.
So I have to keep making it, which is why, those first few months when the pills was flying, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like now this is my dedicated pills tank now. Like I never want to run out of this. Like you lager is something you have to prioritize because, you can spit out a hazy IPA in 10 days, whereas your lager,
Right.
you're in for 6 weeks.
It should be.
Yeah, at least.
It should be.
Yeah, yeah. I know. For some people, it's a point of pride that they can get a lager out in 3 weeks, but not us.
And I've had there's a lot of discussion around lagers about that kind of stuff right now. And like I have had some lagers that were turned pretty quick that I think are
passable.
they're
not
good.
not bad.
And there are people around town. Shout out to Andy down at Alexandria that is still diehard that if you're going to make a lager, you have to decoct it. I don't think that that's necessarily true either.
Bless his heart.
But I love the dedication that people have to styles like that and
Totally.
the things that they hold on to because of tradition or because of something else or because they really like, I think I can tell a difference. Awesome. Like,
Right.
please keep doing it, And so
Right.
the fact that there are still, there are still a lot of people out there like, all right, if I'm going to make a lager, it has to sit in
gotta
the
do
tank
it.
for 6 weeks. It
Right.
has to actually properly lager. And
Totally.
I appreciate that.
Let's do our best to make it right. And I do love seeing like you can spot the beer guys.
Yeah.
They come out. I love that they come. They start with the lager. I put it at the very top of the list for a reason. Like I'd like you to start with this because I think I know when I go to a brewery, if I see any light lager, that's what I start with and go from there because I think you can tell a lot about their priorities as a brewery and wanting to do it right.
Right. Well, and it's not to take away from people that, maybe you've tried and your lager was not that great for whatever reason. Like, that's just not our thing.
Right.
It's not to take away from that because I think
Oh,
that
totally.
as this beer scene keeps growing and evolving, and especially if you're a brewery that, within walking distance, you can get to 5 other breweries.
Totally.
You don't have to do everything.
No, definitely not. Like,
But flip that,
Uh-huh.
if you're a place in Lebanon, Ohio,
yeah,
you have to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that and have
Definitely.
something that kind of
Right.
meets everybody's standards of what
Totally.
beer to them is.
yeah, absolutely. And perfect example all through. I mean, this August seemed super hot, man. It was miserable, and we still had guys like, "Oh, where's all your dark beer?"
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm sorry, I'm with you, but
There was
I'd sell 4.
There was a post on Reddit recently on the beer subreddit that was, what are your hot takes in beer? Or what's your opinion that is wrong to everybody? I don't remember what the tag was, and one of
Right.
them was, there is no stout season.
yeah,
But because of the flip, it's always stout season.
right. There, I guess I would amend that to say there is a season where breweries can sell stout successfully, like because fortunately we do stuff on such a small scale here. I want to always have fresh beer
Sure.
churning through. So like, if I can't sell it in 8 weeks, I don't want to make it.
The same
You know?
Same goes for Oktoberfest. Same goes
Totally.
for Bach. All of these things have a season.
Right.
Their seasons are, some of them are longer and some of them are much shorter, but there
Right.
is a season for everything.
Right.
And
I can eat beef stew in July. That doesn't mean I want to. Like,
that's right. Well, and I do like Imperial Stout. Like is definitely a winter beer to me.
totally.
But if you catch me in the middle of summertime and like we're out, we're sitting around a campfire or something, and it gets like late at night, an Imperial Stout tastes
Yeah.
really good,
Totally.
even if it's hot outside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think there's the time and place for them, but I think for us, our stout season's starting soon. At
Yeah.
least we're going to start brewing it soon.
yeah.
But I have to let them down. Those occasional guys in the summer that want a 10% stout. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
But there are having that thing that kind of scratches that itch a little bit.
Yeah.
Having something that maybe a Dunkel or a Schwarzbier
Totally.
or something that kind of it's like we don't really have a big stout right now, but
Right.
we have
Right,
this that has some of
totally.
those same flavors that'll at least
Right.
keep you happy,
And-
get you in here.
and we've transitioned a lot of like casual drinkers to stuff that they might not have otherwise gotten into the same way, because people actually the Schwarzbier was that way a lot too.
Right.
We had a lot of people like, oh, we had that, and I think we had our Russian Imperial Stout on
Right.
in the winter, and people are like, hey, this is a bit much for lunch, So we were like, oh, give this a whirl, and we've actually had some conversations about maybe doing a smaller batch of Schwarzbier in the summer, or at least late spring. And I think right now I wish I had the tank space to have Schwarzbier on right now, because
This is definitely Schwarzbier.
Totally.
Weather.
Yeah.
I think Dunkel works really good in
Yeah.
the summer too. Something that has a little bit crisper,
Totally.
a little less kind of roasty and kind of
The Dunkel flew, man. I wasn't sure what to expect out of that one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know if people know what it is. It's fun to say, but but it did great.
Yeah.
So I think we have some that we kind of sprinkle in. They do well. And then we have some. It's like we kind of got to lick our wounds and be like, I don't think they're either whether they're not ready for it yet or it just wasn't right.
Right.
Or so there's been a learning curve to some of that, but most of it I've been pretty happy with.
Most of it?
Right, most of it I've been, because like the smoked Hellas was a good example. I was like, guys, I'm telling you, this is awesome. Please try it. Like, they're like,
Smoked beer is one of those things that just
Right.
There are people that are diehard smoked beer fans.
Totally.
And
I'm one of them.
they will drink them
Right.
all day long, every day.
Right.
Then there's people that just always, I just don't get it.
Not for me.
Yeah.
yeah. And this wasn't even like the full Shankerla, like liquid bacon, like
Right.
chunky smoked. This was like pretty faint, but I had to eat crow on that one a little bit. I was like, guys, we could definitely sling a double batch of smoked Hellas. And
West Side somehow has managed to convert people enough
Mm-hmm.
that I think every time he makes a lager now, he smokes at least part of it.
Really?
And does, there's
That's awesome.
There's always some kind of smoked beer on tap at West Side.
oh,
Which,
good for them.
whether or not Colin over there is just the one sitting there drinking all of it, I don't know the answer to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I drank a lot of smoked Hellas for a couple months, but
It's great.
I wasn't
Like,
mad about it, but
it is I love bringing beer and food together a lot, and I think smoked beer is one of those things
Absolutely.
that just not necessarily just always smoked food,
Right.
but it goes with so many
Totally.
different things that I think if people kind of made that connection in their head or
right.
actually
Even just a
tried
big
it.
sloppy burger with like
yeah,
it's
but-
hard to beat.
No, but even like even hot dogs. Like if you
Totally.
just grill a bunch of hot dogs and then get a big smoked Hellas,
Yeah,
oh my
man.
god, it's perfect. Like it is so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Underappreciated.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about. This will be fun for people on YouTube because there's all kinds of chaos happening behind you.
Oh no.
It's all right. Talk about kind of making this shift in your career and your actual beer life, where so many of those jobs that you're in, you're at high profile places, you're at big
Right.
places, you're at places in the middle of some kind of a thing that's happening,
Right.
And then not that Lebanon isn't, but you come up here and you're kind of in your own little bubble up here.
man,
like
it's-
it's easy to kind of just do your thing.
Man, I'm not mad about it. I mean, so many years of a decade of working in big production breweries that sales dictates production. Like there's no wiggle room to squeeze in a smoked Helles. There's no, because that's so much of what we do here. We have kind of our bell ringers, like we always got to have the Blondale here in Lebanon. Like there's the ones that we can never not have. And then we just get to sprinkle in, like, okay, we're going to have, this tank's going to be open for a month. What are we going to do with it?
Right.
Which is great, because that's not a freedom I've ever had before.
Right.
So we do kind of have a captive audience in Lebanon. Like, we get some people that branch out from Cincy, but I think, like I said, we're just enough off the beaten trail that we can kind of do our own thing here.
Is there a side of it, though, that's a detriment that you don't have the beer people as much breathing down your neck and kind of pushing you into different, like trying new trends, maybe?
I mean, I think there's definitely the place for the people that geek out over. I mean,
again, not that they don't exist here in Lebanon.
Oh, no,
if you
totally.
live in Lebanon and you listen to this show, I get it.
We have a very devoted squad of Lebanon locals that are probably here more than me, and we're very grateful for them. And they bring their friends, and because when we were completely funded by Lebanon investors.
Right.
Like, we put out our business plan, and my partner put it out on Facebook. He's from Lebanon. He's a Lebanon guy. Put it out on Facebook, and we were like, all right, this might take a couple months. We didn't really know what to expect, and we had a waiting list in 2 weeks.
That's great. Which
was awesome. And, those are always your biggest supporters, your biggest cheerleaders. Like, they don't have anyone come to town. They don't not bring them here. So, which has been great. So Lebanon's been, I have been in some contentious openings in the past with whether it's the city or the neighbors, and we had a couple of grumpy neighbors, but other than that, the city was so supportive, and they
have not to interrupt, the grumpy neighbors that you might have had at the beginning, have they come around at this point after they?
Yeah, I think they realized that we're not a, I don't know, trap house, whatever they thought we were going to be, like den of sin.
I think there's a lot of like breweries that open, especially in kind of smaller towns or in neighborhoods that maybe didn't have something like that before, that have this fear of what that means.
Right.
And then once they see kind of what it is, they change their opinion.
I think there's an element of that. I also think these were some maybe particularly nosy neighbors that have never really had an outlet to complain with, but since they had a legal opportunity to complain, they want to take advantage of it.
Personally, I'd much rather have a brewery next to me.
It could be a lot worse.
Obviously for my interest, but like a firehouse has to be like loud at random times.
We're definitely we're definitely more quiet than like a fleet of fire trucks. Like, we're closed by, in this place it quiets down around, weekends we do,
sure,
it's pretty much packed till the end, but weeknights are pretty quiet. Like, this definitely isn't like a party hub or which is the most ironic thing of all of it is about a block that way we have an awesome towny bar, shout out Kings, that might be more of the things that they're concerned with, and they've been there for decades, I think. I don't know, but and it's funny, like the concerned citizens have family members that are in here pretty often, and I think we've got kind of a Maya Copa from them, but they ironically love their bourbon, which we do. We do like to keep a little bourbon shelf for that crowd too.
Sure, and that's probably something we should talk about a little bit. Let's drink a beer first.
All right.
Number 3.
So this is back to crowd service stuff, but this is one of our newest hazy IPAs. We partnered with the Ales for ALS. I'm sure you're familiar. For ALS research, we're really proud of how it came out, and $1 from every pint is going to go directly to ALS research. So that's one we really wanted to highlight.
So hazy IPA versus New England IPA. Is there a difference? And if there is, what is it?
If there is, I don't know it. I think I think there's some like what sounds better, because there's some that like we'll put New England IPA. Like one of our mainstays is our Deadbeat Hazy IPA, and when we first opened, we hit it on there as New England IPA, and it was it did well. I was like, let's change it and see what hazy does, and it was a significant difference.
That's interesting.
And I think it's just what sounds cooler. I think there's like the way porters and stouts are kind of up to interpretation depending on the brewer. I think, I know I have a clear vision of what it is, but I also think like what sounds better with the name you picked out,
Well, nobody's going to be that disappointed if they pick up a porter. They're like, this is more stout-like.
Right.
To me, hazy IPA can have a little bit more bitterness to it that kind of balances out some of that
I can see
sweet
that.
stuff that's happening in a New England IPA to me. But I think it is definitely still up to interpretation.
Absolutely.
Is there pineapple in here?
No, it's all hops and malt.
That's delicious.
Thank you so much.
That is super fruity, super tropical. Again, pineapple right off the bat is exactly what I get. It's really good.
It's a great punch from tropical fruit, and I think there's some cool kind of noble hop nuance because Ales for ALS, it is a blend specific to the foundation. So we got access to some hops we probably otherwise would have ignored, which is cool because it's it kind of inserts some new character into something we might have otherwise missed out on.
Right.
So.
No, I enjoy this. This is one of those beers that if I just come in here randomly and I'm getting a pint, I'm not ordering that. Like I'm not like hazy IPAs, New England IPAs. I just kind of, not that I don't enjoy them sometimes, but there's a lot of them out there that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think
this is one that I definitely do, especially summertime when you get those hot days. This is good.
Yeah, it hits a spot I think because I'm kind of the same way. Like I'll usually have one of our hazies every other week. Make sure they're still tasting good, still pouring right, stuff like that. But that's not what I want to sit and crush on a hot day. So, but we have some. There's some. It's like I was like, hey man, try something besides one of the IPAs, please. Because we got the regulars. That's like, when's a new IPA coming out? It's like,
Have you dabbled with dry hopped pilsners and some of the Italian pilsners and things like that to kind of branch between those two crowds?
Our pils probably kind of treads the line between the two because it is a dry hopped German pils. I kind of back to the naming stuff. I thought German pils might resonate a little better than Italian pils just because I think people don't consider Italy as a hop, or as a beer, culture, even though they have a strong one.
And the style itself, we probably talked about this last week where we were at Streetside, and they have a beer right now that's called It's a Spicy Meatball.
Yeah, I loved it.
The artwork definitely gives you inspiration to some kind of Italian culture, but that's not what the beer is.
Right.
The beer is a noble hopped Pilsner. And so I think people have this misconception when they see Italian Pilsner now of what it is. And so I get that it might be a little easier to explain that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we were with it because it's, up until the dry hop, it's a pretty traditional German Pils.
Yeah.
Actually,
what do you guys dry hop it with?
Saphir.
Okay.
Saphir. Yeah.
So, and Saphir is a little more modern, right? That's one of the modern.
Yeah, that's one of the newer, some kind of variant.
Yeah,
it's definitely a little more floral, a little brighter.
We didn't talk about it on the show. That's the side beer.
Oh yeah,
drinking a Pilsner.
The warm up.
Let's go back because what we were talking about before we kind of dove into the hazy / New England /
nomenclature.
Talk about kind of the other drinkers that maybe exist around you. The people that want bourbon, the people that want seltzers, the people that want wine. You guys have slushy machines. I see them sitting over there.
Oh, God bless them. Yeah.
How do you number one, how do you try to find something that kind of makes all of those people happy? How do you balance that as a beer nut when you have to know deep down inside that, look, if somebody walks in my door, I don't care what their normal drink is, I will find something that's going to make them happy. It's beer. How do you balance that?
I think you're definitely not going to be for everyone, but I think we do try to cater to the crowd, which, we do a great wine business here.
Yeah.
Because I think there's still, I don't know whether I think there's some people that just have decided they don't like beer. I hope that you can sell them enough wine. Maybe someday they're going to try the fruited sour or something that kind of bridges the gap. But we do great wine business, and one thing we weren't anticipating when we opened is the amount of door business we would do here.
Right.
Speaking to how awesome Lebanon's been, they expanded their Dora perimeter without us even asking to include us.
Of course.
So Lebanon's great for doing the horsey parades in the summer or in the winter, and all the little things were in the summer where they shut down the streets.
Well, it used to also be like if my wife told me, hey, we got to go to Lebanon today, I need to go buy some antique shit, whatever those things are that she buys when she goes. I'd be like, okay, you can drop me off at whatever the bar is or wherever the brewery is. The fact that there's a door in now, and I don't know that all the antique shops welcome the door beverages in there.
Well, they don't want our sloppy blue slushies in there.
look at the stickers on the door.
Right.
Ask people when you walk in. But the fact that I don't have to just be dropped off while my family goes and does their thing now.
Totally.
The fact that I can go be part of that with a drink in hand.
Right.
Changes everything.
Right. It definitely helps because I think people are a lot more inclined to go tchotchke shopping if they get to get a beer with first.
That's right. It eases some of the pain.
Yeah,
of
just
what she spends.
The live, laugh, love signs aren't going to sell themselves. So get down to Lebanon, get a Dora cup, and just watch your wife go nuts. Because we have no shortage of those stores, right?
You might need the Imperial Stouts for that.
Yeah, we'll bring back the stout for you.
Well, and Lebanon is such a great city for events like that. You were talking with the carriages and the Christmas stuff and all that. Like, it's such a neat place to just go be in the town and to kind of feel that culture of what Lebanon is. And a brewery is something that just makes all of that so much more fun.
Hurts. It never hurts. I think you want to if you want to keep the small town feel, like the small town, kind of rustic, come as you are brewery is what you want.
Yeah. Let's start with what kind of, what's the future look like for Lebanon Brewing Company? Do you guys have any desire to get your beer on a shelf somewhere?
No, man. I am proudly have no aspirations to be any bigger than we are. I've been down the big brewery road where, everyone wants to compete over this much space at Kroger, and it doesn't interest me. We're keg only. I have no plans to really sell beer off site.
Do you guys have a crowler machine, or
we do crowlers to go? But that's probably going to be the extent of it. I think. There's so many awesome breweries around where you can get their stuff at Kroger. Like, I'm content just doing our own beer here, kind of controlling the cold chain of it.
Right.
And I think there's enough good distributing breweries that we don't need to pile on it. I'm happy to just do our own fresh stuff here.
Right.
So,
what about kind of, if you take a step back and look at the bigger picture of craft beer and the culture of craft beer, that maybe Cincinnati, maybe beyond, whatever strikes your fancy. What do you like about it? Maybe what do you not like about it? How do you feel about where it's going? What are your thoughts?
I love that the industry has transitioned to just the hyper-local breweries. I think the days of big, regional breweries is kind of past. I don't think there's what we have now. I think is it. I don't know if there's going to be any like rising through the ranks, which I'm cool with. I think the brew pub model is stable. It's reliable. It's, I think, best for the consumer because anymore, like, why would you buy an IPA from California? Because
right.
And people always ask me like, oh, what's your favorite IPA? Like, the best IPA is the one that's made closest to where you are now. Currently are.
Yeah.
Like, everyone makes a good IPA for the most part. Everyone makes a great IPA. Like, go drink that one. Like, don't go buy the one that's like out warm at Kroger. Like, just go to a brewery or
That's not to say like it's not fun to go to California and drink IPAs.
Go to California because the IPAs are incredible, but don't put it in your suitcase and bring it home. It won't be any better. It'll suck.
Well, and that's this is probably going down another rabbit hole that we don't need to, but there's a lot of, especially over the last like 10 years, there was a big thing of people cellaring beer, and you go and you buy this at this release, and you grab a case of it and you stash it away in your basement, and you trade for it and all this stuff, and like most of the time those beers are not getting any better.
No, and I always tell people they don't get better. They will get different, but they're probably not going to get better.
Yeah, it's not that it's not fun to kind of experiment with, but beer is meant, in my opinion, to be drank sitting at a bar where it comes out of the tap of the place that just made it the other day. That's where beer is meant to be consumed.
Yeah, that's definitely how I like it. I never had the patience to save beer or cellar beer or any of that. Like, if I brought home a cool bottle, invite some friends over and pop it, and
Right.
that was that.
That's
So,
my problem. So I'll go and I'll buy a beer, and it'll be a big 22-ounce bomber or
Right.
something. I'm like, oh, this was really good. I'm not going to drink all that by myself. Number one, because it's a lot of
I
beer.
shouldn't.
But yeah,
Too
number
old.
two, like I just want to share this experience with
Right,
somebody, so I
right.
put it there, and then I'm like, all right, now I got to have people over.
Right.
And then that a week turns into a month, and a month turns into 6 months. I'm like, holy shit, I got this beer sitting here still.
Now I got a 22-ounce
Yeah,
bottle of soy
yeah,
sauce.
Yeah. So it just becomes like
Yeah.
you're looking for this chance to drink it, and I made a rule. I don't know if it was last winter, maybe the winter before. It's like it doesn't. If I get something in my head, I'm like, you know what I want tonight? I want coffee imperial stout. I'm grabbing it and I'm
Yeah.
opening it and I'm drinking. Even if I don't finish it,
Right.
I don't care. Like I'm opening it and I'm going to consume it because that's what you're supposed
What it's
to do
for.
with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the negative side of what's happening in craft beer though?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I pay close enough attention to some of it to really pick up on it. I think some of the super exclusive, like kind of that fabricated scarcity of some of those bottles. That,
Right.
I mean, it's cool, but we don't need to line up for a $25 4-pack of hazy IPAs that are. I mean, it's cool. I mean, but I also that stuff doesn't appeal to me as much. So it's hard for me to say like, oh, that sucks, because there's plenty of people that love it, and
Right.
I think beer can just be. I do think sometimes we just overthink beer, because at the end of the day, it's just beer. So like, let's just enjoy it.
Is that better for the industry, or is that hurting the beer industry? That's where I keep getting kind of hung up with it, because we talked for so many years that we want to elevate beer to the level that wine gets,
Right.
and that's a big thing with wine too.
Yeah.
Is like there's got to be fancy
Some
bottles
exclusivity.
and
Yeah,
look what I have. This was and it's like
I don't know, man. I think
do we need that for beer to become what beer can be, or
I don't know. I think we just need to be content with beer being beer. Like, people can be proud of what they're making,
Right.
and but ultimately, it's not a super expensive thing to make. Like, it's never going to be. I don't know. I say that, but then there's people that really trade some of those super exclusive, hard to come by things, and I don't know. I think a lot of that's lost on me, but maybe that's just from working in big breweries and like the utility of beer. Like, it's just
it's so weird for me because like in my head I'm like I don't really care about
Right.
the exclusivity or the rareness of something. Like, that doesn't actually factor into my thoughts on it, but like I do want to try it.
Totally.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
like
totally.
I had this thing where like somebody
Yeah.
said, oh, I got this, and this they made this with the butthole of a unicorn,
right.
and I'm like, okay, I kind of need to try a unicorn butthole.
I guess I'm not a unicorn butthole guy.
and then I try it, and I'm like, ugh.
Right.
That wasn't worth waiting
yeah.
in line for your 3 days and sacrificing 2 children and all these things
Right.
you have to go to get your unicorn butthole IPA, which is actually a really good name for a beer. Does that exist?
Oh, it's got to.
Somebody send me
I've
a
tried.
message
I've
if
tried
you-
finding names for beers that aren't taken. It's impossible. They got to be.
Can you dry hop a beer with unicorn buttholes?
If Amazon has it, I'm
Tastes
going
like
to give it a whirl.
sparkles.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but in the same spirit, I've also done the like beer nerd pilgrimage to Belgium and
Sure.
geeked out over that stuff, and had enough heartburn to last a lifetime, and so it's cool. I think there's still some romance about. Like I said, it's like the Hill Farmstead stuff. Like, it's about the journey for
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
you get with some
Great
buddies
example.
and
Great example.
drive out, and you brush your teeth in a parking lot, and you're hungover and you're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's fun. But
Yeah,
I think that's about the journey more than like
yeah, but even
end
that,
result.
it becomes about. It still is about the place. It's about the experience of
Yeah,
going
yeah.
there.
An awesome brewery
Yeah.
that is a pain in the ass to get to, and but so yeah, I think people build a story around. So I think that's where a lot of the romance for some of those breweries come from, because it's
Right.
Obviously it's awesome beer, but we went through that, like when people were geeking out over like Pine of the Elder. Like, it's an awesome
Sure.
beer, but like, so was Bodie.
Right.
Like, if I had to pick between the Pine of the Elder that went through someone's carry-on or went through someone's luggage and has been sitting out and sucks, and I'll just take the fresh Bodhi because there's awesome beer
even
here.
if Pliny is fresh, like I think I would take fresh
I
Bodhi.
think I would too. Yeah.
It's weird the kind of the road that we've gone on as drinkers and kind of trying to find.
Okay.
You go through all this stuff,
right?
And then at the end of the day, you sit down at the bar and like, I'll take your German Pilsner,
right? You're right.
that might have been the pinnacle of beer. Like, it's I've probably said this before on the show, but I do think it is the perfect beer. Like Pilsner,
it's hard to beat, man.
The perfect beer style.
I would have to agree with you. I think everything else is great, but if I had to pick one for the rest of my life, I mean,
yeah,
you can't go wrong with Pils. So
let's drink this last one.
So this is our new, this is kind of the counterpoint for myself to the hazies. Like anytime I make a hazy, I try to make kind of a West Coast, like traditional,
sure,
the IPAs I gravitate towards. So that's what this one is.
What's it called?
Business Papers. Shout out Lebowski fans.
I've actually never seen The Big Lebowski.
What?
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So, balance.
Right.
You still get the bitterness from the hops. You get a little of that tropical kind of fruity flavor, but big kind of sweet backbone to it.
Yep. I like that piney resinous.
Yeah, that's a beer.
Yeah. So I can't always do like a counterpoint to a beer when I make it, but when I can, I like to.
Yeah.
No,
I enjoy that a lot. There's a lot of places that say they're making a West Coast IPA, and you go in and it's just messy. Like it just doesn't have that balance to it. Beer, in my opinion, agree or disagree, anybody that wants to, but beer should be balanced always, no matter what the beer style is. If it's a pastry stout, you can still make a balanced pastry stout.
Right.
It's got to have some sweetness to it, but there should be something else to kind of come in and kind of pull that back a little bit.
Totally.
A lot of places aren't doing that.
I feel like if we can do a counterpoint to something, I like to just kind of. I don't like people that just because you don't see them out that often. Like when I go to because I still one of my favorite pastimes is going to breweries.
Sure.
So I was like, man, I just want a West Coast. I just want something. I want it to be bright. I want to be able to see through it. I want it to be resinous, piney, all that stuff that I really fell in love with IPAs. Because I think, there's obviously tons of great hazy IPAs, but I think they can be kind of one note. Like, you can have three. They're obviously all different and distinct, but they kind of have the same experience, the same drinking experience. So, I like to try to force this on people. Like, you like this? Like, try this one. Like, it's actually bitter. It's kind of what the American style was supposed to be.
But it's bitter, but it's not like there were even go back to that kind of that
novelty
when that West Coast thing started exploding. There were a lot of really overly bitter and unbalanced bitter IPAs that became what people associated West Coast IPA with. Like that's not it either. Like there needs to be that that sweet kind of
pastry stouts weren't the
it.
only novelty, man. I think for a while there, people were like, "Oh, this will strip your teeth and it tastes like the inside of a lawnmower, and you're gonna, it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be $12 and you're gonna love it."
Right. Well, there were a lot of people that, and still are a lot of people that are just craving that thing. I don't know if it's like a testosterone banging your chest kind of thing. Like, look, I love this stuff, and it's terrible.
Right. It sucks, man.
It's like okay. There is something about drinking culture that is part of it. Like
I think it's a gatekeeping thing. Like, well, this doesn't suck. You just don't get it.
Yeah, like there even like when you go out to a bar and people start doing shots and stuff, and you see people doing a shot and then they make that face afterwards. It's like,
this is fun.
Did you just enjoy that, or was that like something else that's happening right now? Because I don't understand.
I hate to tell you, man, but no one's impressed. Like, I can see that it sucked, and even worse, no one thinks it's cool.
Right. Like beer was never supposed to be that, in my opinion.
No.
And it became that for a very long time.
Definitely. And I think it still is, which I think you can tell how long people have been into beer by what they gravitate towards a little bit. Cause it's like,
maybe.
Because like, you go to like CBC, like Craft Brewers Conference or something, and it's like a high concentration of just brewers. And you go out to the local spots, and will just be full of people that look like me crushing pills.
Yeah.
And, I think that's just like that's like the end game for a lot of beer nerds.
Right.
Like it took me years to get there. You go through all the all the funky shit and all the super bitter stuff and all the stuff with food in it.
Right.
And I think everyone kind of ends at some easy, crispy guys.
Yeah. Where does craft beer go? Like, where are we headed? What's next for craft beer?
I just sure hope it stays on this hyper local trajectory. I think we have a very educated market now. There's a ton of people that know good beer. They know bad beer. They know fresh beer. So I hope people just continue to support like the local Cincinnati breweries, and not to say people aren't sending in good beer from elsewhere. I'll still grab a Fatheads when I see it, but
that's the sad part to me is that, like, I know that, like, even if I go there, like, there are a lot of places that are within not that long of a drive that I could go and have some really incredible beer that I'm just not going to because there's better beer here in Cincinnati.
Right. Like, if you're in town, go check those spots out. But like, I don't know if you want the one at Kroger. It's not going to be the same as the one in Cleveland.
No.
And so
you're rolling the dice sometimes.
You are. You really are, man. It's
shout out to all of those distributors that just don't care.
Those hot trucks and so yeah, man, I just hope people continue to support like the local breweries. I think that's like the flesh and blood of the industry. Obviously I'm biased, but there's so many other awesome small independent breweries here that I don't know why you would. I don't know. And I also don't want to shit on big breweries because there's plenty of big breweries making awesome beer.
Right.
But, like, you don't need the stuff that was shipped you from Colorado.
Yeah, that is an interesting point because there's places, you look at Sierra Nevada or I'll even say Boston Beer.
Right.
Like the things that they do for the industry and
totally.
It's good stuff.
It's good optics for the industry and they make
the beer is great.
Solid beer.
So there is some respect there.
Yeah,
but,
totally. Like if you're at Applebee's, they're only going to have Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Get that. Like,
sure.
Get the good, So I think there's give and take with it, but I think when you can support a local brewery, you definitely you should, because I think it's best. It keeps everyone honest.
Right.
I think all ships rise with the tide in this industry. Like, you got to keep up with one another, and I think there's a lot of camaraderie in it, but I think it also keeps everyone honest. Like, I don't want to cut corners on my lager because High Grain makes killer lager. Like, I don't want people to come from High Grain to here like, oh, that was so much better. Like, oh, come on. I know, maybe, but
that's a valid point though too. Like, you're now being compared to other breweries that are making great stuff.
Like, oh, we drove all the way out to Lebanon for this.
Well, and that's kind of going back to that original question of it wasn't original, but somewhere in the middle there, where living in this bubble, how does that affect kind of how all of this comes together? And it gets different if you're around the corner from High Grain.
Totally.
Like, you have this standard now that you have to live up to.
Which I am, ironically. I actually live a block from High Grain. So it's like, that's where I like to go hang out.
But like, there are a lot of people that come into Lebanon that this is just their spot. Like, there isn't another thing for them. So they this is their perception of Pilsner. So you aren't always held to that standard that you should be. So it's hard to kind of keep yourself honest with that.
Right. I think there's a lot of it for me, like, for the one beer dude that knows the difference that comes in, like, I needed to be good for that guy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I like that.
Those are always the ones that I worry about. Obviously, I want it to be great for everyone.
Right.
But I think there's some that's like the bar's a lot lower. So I want it to be good for the ones that know what they're drinking, know what they expect, and stuff like that. So like I said, we do have a kind of a captive audience here. We have a lot of really supportive regulars and locals,
not that that's not bad.
No, it's great. We love it. We're so grateful for it.
That's extremely important and the lifeblood of a place like this. But
I would hate for someone to think like, oh, we drove all the way out to Lebanon. This Oktoberfest is underwhelming. Like, no, this is a bummer.
Yeah.
I appreciate that people. There's a lot of people that make a trip to get to us. So I really try to lean into fresh beer because that's the one advantage that we're always going to have over big breweries.
Yep.
Like, I can make 5 barrels, 7 barrels of something. I know it's going to be gone in 6 weeks or less. Like, it's going to be fresh. It's going to be exactly what we want.
Well, you can be sitting here at the bar and you can be over there making something, and somebody can say, "Oh, what are you making?" You're like, "Oh, it's,
constantly.
It's this." Come back in 3 weeks and it'll be on tap.
Right.
And then you can come back and be like, "Oh, I was here when he was making this." Like, that becomes a thing too. Like,
I watched that sweaty guy make this. That sweaty man was back there. And now, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a thing that it ties you to the
Totally.
experience. It ties you to the product. You don't get that with big beer.
No, definitely not. And we very intentionally didn't put any kind of partitions up, like
Right.
even the plexiglass. Like if it's hot in here because we're brewing, I want people to feel it. I want people to know that we're making it 15 feet away from where they're pouring it.
I not that I hate is probably not the right word, and that's what I was going to use. But I don't enjoy as much the breweries that I walk in, and I don't know that they brewed that day. Like I want to walk in, I want to smell it, I want to feel, I want to
Totally.
be extra humid.
Like,
I want to
here.
feel that. Like that's what I love about breweries.
Absolutely, I like that people come in, they have to walk by our bin of spent grain sitting out front.
Yep.
I think it's part of the experience. It's something that there's not a ton of advantages to being a small independent, like small brewery like this, and that's definitely one of them.
Sure.
We get to make super fresh stuff, and it just it just really takes out a lot of the experience when you're you buy something in the store.
It becomes a commodity, a product.
Totally,
a thing that's just
like this,
on a shelf.
This is just the thing we made over there, and now we sell it here, and it's great.
What do you, as we wrap up here, what do you want people to know about Lebanon Brewing Company that you think they don't know?
I think I hope people don't listen to this and think that we only make like traditional German styles, because we do like to, if we have enough people saying like, oh, we want a milkshake IPA, I'm like, all right, we'll give it,
Right.
And we've done one. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't want people to think that we've like pigeonholed into we're just going to do these three things and that's it, because we do like to be, less so in the summer. We don't have a lot of freedom of production in the summer, because we're just trying to keep up. Like, we're trying to keep the cooler full. Like, but we get into some of these slower months, and like I want to do some of the stuff that I loved from early in the industry days. Like, I want to make a barley wine. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to drink it, but like I want to make like there's still that, we still have that aspect of like we're just going to make what we like and hope other people like it too. We can't obviously do with everything, but we can have the kind of, we use the term throwaway, but it's like, we'll make it. If we lose some money on it, so what? We like it. Our regulars are like hardcore guys who are going to like it, and that's cool with us.
Anything that can keep that kind of that passion and that excitement kind of rolling.
Totally.
Yeah.
For every time I make another batch of blonde ale, I need to make something goofy that because I know what my bread and butter is. I have no illusions of like what keeps the lights on and stuff like that. But it's like, if we this blonde ale had to be born so that the barrel aged barley wine could live.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you
Thanks so
making
much
some
for
time
coming.
and sitting down with me. If you guys haven't been up here, come up here. Or I guess if you live north of here, come down here. Wherever
you're at.
Right. Wherever you come, just come here.
Right.
Beer's great.
Thanks so much.
The food, we didn't even talk about the food. The food is great, too.
Oh, the food
Ladder
kicks ass,
41,
man.
food partner
kicks
here.
ass.
You can come in, grab some lunch, grab some dinner. Probably both the same day is also acceptable. You can do that.
Just stick around.
Everything's great. We'll be back next week. I believe we'll probably be talking Oktoberfest.
Nice.
It's Cincy Brewcast. It's the voice of Cincy Craft. I timed that terribly. I didn't even tell you that you were supposed to like support on Patreon and all those things. I'm a bad podcaster. See you guys next week.